Hello, welcome to the Empower Series podcast. My name is Clifton Johnson. For those of you who are new, for those of you who've been around, welcome back to the Empower Series podcast. You know, this is where we give you hope, inspiration, education, and connection to resources to help you take that next step to achieve your goal. So welcome again. You're about to be empowered. I am so excited to be here with my friend, Aaron Leek. He is a wealth advisor, and he's been in the business for 16 years. We're going to talk about a number of things. We're going to talk about some typical conversations he's had with his clients. But more importantly, I've had this thought about how we are always chasing wealth and creating wealth and spending the money on whatever we want to spend it on. But I want to make sure that you know that no matter where you are on that journey of creating wealth, you can always give and empower your community. So I'm going to specifically talk about some strategies around how you can give to small nonprofit organizations and their challenges so that you can determine, again, in your pursuit of wealth, how can you also give back as you're climbing? How can you reach back and lift up other people and, more importantly, empower your communities? So without any further ado, I want to introduce my brother, Aaron Leek. He's been in the business, like I said, for 16 years as a wealth manager. He has a Series 6, Series 7, got to look it down, 63 and 66. What do those mean? He'll tell you what those mean. But again, he's had, before he started his own practice, he's worked for a number of well-established and notable financial service companies. He's talked to thousands of individuals, from the ultra high net worth individual to someone who's just starting. So you're going to be empowered. Get your pens and paper ready. And Aaron, welcome back to the Empower Series.
Thanks, man. It's great to be here. Always good time to connect and have a good conversation. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Right before we started filming, man, we had some deep conversation about the advice people.
For sure.
I think it's really interesting that we really help. I tell people that we help people we don't know. Right. But then our family is. Some of our family members would not take our advice,
right.
But then sometimes they ask for our advice,
right.
And that we're thinking, maybe it's best for you to get the advice from someone else, right?
Right.
But today you're going to give us a wealth of information, man, about how people can be philanthropic, and no matter how much money you make. But more importantly, we're going to also talk about how people who are very wealthy, and if they're fortunate enough to have a lot of wealth, can still use some tax advantage strategies with their wealth to give and make an impact in the community while they're alive, as well as when they're gone.
Sure. Yeah. I'm excited, man. Let's dive in it.
All right. It's cool. Well, so here, let's talk about this whole aspect of nonprofit organizations. There are like 1.5 million nonprofit organizations in the United States. And we hear about the big ones that are raising millions of dollars. And we hear about the $1 million donations that wealthy people are giving. That kind of rubs me the wrong way to a certain extent, because I know Empower Series being one of them, a relatively smaller nonprofit organization, because of that 1.5 million, 88% have annual revenue of less than 500,000.
Yeah.
Right. And the majority of that 88% have revenue that's less than 25, that's between 50 and 25,000.
Yeah.
Right. And so my thought is, when you hear about politicians raising millions of dollars off of $5 and $10 donations, right. I'm thinking, what the hell? And all of a sudden, and they're donating to campaigns that are going to lose, right? Where they can take that $5 and $10 donation and make a meaningful impact in a local nonprofit organization that is making a big impact in their own community. It's not a chance, right? So you can tell I'm kind of passionate about it.
Yeah, for sure.
So don't get me started. But I want to talk to you about some conversations you have with your clients.
Well, let's stay there real quick. I think there's two reasons why people give to GoFundMe's, like we kind of talked about, and then even presidential or any type of campaigns. I think now in 2025, we have made it very easy. So now I can do that at a click of a button. So I try to encourage my smaller non-for-profit or charitable, any type of charitable contributions to make sure that you make it easy for people to donate. We talked about that in the past as well. Like, give me an app, give me a link, give me something that is quick to do. We're in a quick society, right? I buy stuff on Amazon every day.
Oh my God.
Why? Because it's quick and easy. Like, I get to push a button and I'm done.
Yeah.
So I think that's number one, right? We've made it very easy. It's not where our grandparents had to write a check, drop it in the mail,
right.
And I'm contributing to this campaign. We've made it very, very easy for people, and even when we talked about place of worship, they've made it very easy. Now you can
text to
give. You can text to give. You can scan to give, and people like that. That impulse takes away. I got to write out this check. Okay. And give a donation. So I think that's one thing that I think some of the smaller not-for-profits sometimes don't catch on to that. So make it easy, number one. Number two, I think people just are not aware of what it means to give to a smaller organization. I think people automatically assume I give to this candidate or to this campaign or to this church or to this big organization because I see their name and they know it, right? People are always looking for a brand. So if you think about a campaign, they got a good brand.
Right.
Even if I know they're going to lose or potentially going to lose, they got a good brand. Like I like the brand, so I'm going to give to that brand. I'm going to buy Nike because I like the brand. I'm going to buy from Amazon because I like the brand. So we're very brand because it's a whole nother conversation. We are brainwashed. Marketing is brainwashed. We're all being brainwashed every single day, right? And I think a lot of these organizations have tapped into that, especially with social media. So we have to be careful with that. But I think those two things are like they know a brand and they know it's easy now to give. And I think if you can tap into not the brainwashing, I'm not saying that, or not just make it easy so you're stealing people's money. I'm saying make it easy so people can donate, number one. Make it, number two, I think people just need to be more aware, and it's both sides. You can give. It's okay.
Yeah.
You can give to someone in your community that's doing something in your community. That's just fine. It's great. Like it's not, you don't always have to just give. And I'm not telling people to not give to the church, to give to small organizations. Do what you think is best between you and God, and whatever you want to do. But it's just as good. You know what I mean? You could do just as good giving to your community as you do these other big organizations. So I think those 2 points, I think, need to hit home with our communities as well, just as well as other giving.
You know, you make a good point. And also these big organizations, they do have a brand, they do have a marketing campaign. So there's an awareness with them. A lot of the local nonprofit organizations, Empower Series being one of them, even though, we have 20,000 subscribers now, we didn't have it in the very beginning. Yeah. And there are other ones, so people are not aware. Right. And so I would tell you right now, speaking of all nonprofits, if you know of anybody that has started a nonprofit organization, we are in need of your time, your volunteer hours, your expertise, because we're a company just like any other company that has marketing, accounting, operations, project management, everything, as well as your treasures, right? And so if you're listening to this and you're a nonprofit organization, if you're listening to this and you are an individual that wants to make an impact in your community, know that your local nonprofit may not be easy to donate to, right? So I'm just thinking about, okay, do we have a QR code at the end of all of our programs? Maybe we need to do that, right? I know I mentioned that we have a text to give, so people can text, give or donate to 214-225-6337.
There you go.
They'll get a secure link for us. Yeah. But I would say if you're a nonprofit organization, try to make it easy. Yeah. Get a text to give campaign or get a QR code that directs them directly to the donation page. Our website has a donate button as well. So those are really good points. But it's two ways, right? I think if you want to make an impact, your contribution to a local nonprofit organization will make a greater impact in your community than donating to something much larger. Now, I'm not saying don't do the larger ones, do both. And if you don't have the money to do both, definitely give of your time. Because I think what's underestimated is volunteer hours. Right. We need volunteers for many different things, not just our events that we do on the third Saturday of every month, but we need volunteers in between to update our database. Yeah. People who write in that they've come to our event and we can't read it. Yeah. So we need a whole bunch of help between the workshops, in addition to promoting our events and on social media, being a social media ambassador as well. So, you make some good points on that.
I want to stay there for 1 second. Think about, and I keep coming back to churches because people think in churches, right? Yeah. That's just how we're.
And they give to churches.
And they give to churches. Churches really push your time. Think about it. You go to a service and they say, we need you to come and volunteer. Because they need people just like you're saying.
It's just don't come on Sundays,
It's the same concept. We need people in the parking lot to help people park, especially at these big mega churches. We need people to volunteer their time to help with the kids. We need ushers. These aren't paid. When you see people at church, they're not paid to do that. Those are all volunteers. Most of the time, if you're not on a stage, you're not paid. But there's hundreds of people at these big churches that are working. They're all volunteers. So from the stage, you will hear them talk about people volunteering their time, not just their money. So it's the same concept. So what you're saying is valid. Like you definitely need both.
Thank you for co-signing that, man. So here's the thing too. So when you think about that, people get something for giving. So whether you give money, whether you give your time, or whatever it is, they get some feeling of appreciation, of they're making a contribution, whatever that might be. So when you look at volunteering your time, one of the give backs, if you want to get develop a skill set in any area, whether it's administration, whether it's communication, whether it's marketing, whether it's accounting, you can volunteer for a nonprofit organization and put that on your resume, especially if you're a young student or if you're someone that's wanting to transfer careers, right? You're an accountant, but you want to get into project management. Then start volunteering to do project management type stuff for a nonprofit organization and have them put that on your resume. So there's a lot that can go back and forth, like the reciprocalness of giving and volunteering your time, as well as your expertise. So you look at what we do here, how good we look on social media. A lot of that stuff is given to us in kind by AE Media Group, right? If it wasn't for AE Media Group, being behind the mission and the purpose of the Empower series, we would not be having the global reach that we have right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And so again, I like the fact that you're co-signing what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate.
Even when I was in corporate America, I'm not there now. I'm an entrepreneur. I have my own practice. But when I was in corporate America, and even if I was interviewing someone else now to join my team, one of the questions we used to ask in corporate America, what type of work have you done, not just for money?
Right, like outside.
What else have you done? Like what type of, are you involved in your church? Are you involved in any non-for-profits? It wasn't even like a discriminatory thing, but it was more of just learning who that person was. Where do you volunteer your time as well? Like sometimes people were a soccer coach or they were a basketball coach, or it could be anything. But like, what do you do outside of what you do for money? And it is important. So even as you're talking about a resume builder, that's on my resume still of the stuff that I do. That's what I do volunteer-wise. And I think not that I'm needing a resume right now and looking for work, but when I was in corporate America and I did a lot of interviews to hire people, that was part of the conversation so to your point of especially even younger people that hey, Cliff, I don't have extra money to give. I'm a young student, or I'm young and I'm just starting my career. I don't have this extra cash. It is, just to your point, it can be a resume builder as well. Just not that you're doing the stuff for any other intentions, but the caveat to it, or the icing on the cake for that individual as well, as you said, what do I get back, can be, you put this on your resume now, that makes you look better in an interview.
Yeah. So have people ever asked you, like, what nonprofits can I donate to? Like, they don't know of any nonprofits that are out there that's looking for places for people to volunteer their time or for money?
A little bit. I mean, I think I could even, as you start to discuss stuff, I was just telling someone the other day, my job as an advisor, in my practice and with my full team, we always talk about how we can help people.
Right.
I'm not here to just give advice about stocks or investments or wealth management. That's
in our meeting, that's like 15% of the meeting.
Yeah, it comes with it. It comes with, obviously that's what I'm doing for a living. But if you think about it, I'm really designed to help people. And within that, money goes with every part of your life. So you have a baby, you get married, you have a death in the family, anything, kids go to college, every life event, money is right in the mix of that. So I end up being a counselor a lot of times. Like I end up counseling people through real life stuff, or people get sick or things of the nature. So I think within that, what are you doing with your volunteer time, and what are you doing with your volunteer assets or volunteer money is still a part of that life journey, right? Because everyone wants to feel like they're a part of something that they can't do themselves, right? So I don't personally have the time that Cliff is putting into his not-for-profit, right? I don't personally have that time right now, but Cliff does. So someone wants to say, hey, I don't have the time to do what Cliff is doing, but I love what Cliff is doing. So let me help. How can I help? Monetary, or I can volunteer an hour. I can volunteer 2 hours, or whatever it may be. And I think just people getting into that mindset is huge, because people don't think that way when they think about non-for-profits. They do. That's why I keep going back to church. They do when they think about church. Right. But when they think about, any type of other volunteer stuff, they don't think about it the same. And I know it's the God of the universe, so I'm not trying to diminish that. People don't hear that. But the mindset is similar. It's very, very similar, if not the same. So that's just kind of my message when I'm talking to clients as to where are you volunteering your time and where are you volunteering your resources. You're already doing that. Yeah. I can start talking to you. We're going to go down that path as well. I can start talking to you about how you continue to do that and how I can help with our conversations around when we're talking about money. And I think that's where I come in and help.
Well, I think that's also interesting because the Empower series started back in 2011 when I was a financial advisor. And in January, we always talk about goal setting. And goal setting has a lot of different aspects to it. So part of it is financial, part of it is family, part of it is your health, community involvement, spiritual growth. So it's much more than just money, but all of those things takes resources and time, right? And so one of the things is that if people want to do some research on some of the local nonprofit organizations as well as the national ones to make sure that they are contributing to a qualified nonprofit organization that's that is legit, you can go to a couple of websites. One website is guidestar.org, which is GUIDE star STAR, or Charity Navigator. And those are organizations that will take public information from nonprofit organizations, and then we can also put our information out there to show transparency of our 990s and other things, our mission, our impact, and things of that nature. So if you want to do some research on the Empower series or any community nonprofit organization to make sure that they're legitimate before you volunteer your time or your money, you can go to, again, GuideStar or Charity Navigator.
I think that's huge. That right there is a gem of the day. I think because people have this notion that I'm giving my time, efforts, money to something that I have no idea what they're doing, or I have no idea their legitimacy, or I have no idea if this is the right thing to be doing. So I think I don't want to sound like I'm picking on you or not-for-profit owners, because I'm not. It's two-sided. I think we could do a better job of what you're doing right now, right? You're putting information out in the world for people to know what to do. That's number one. Number two is the other side is us as a community. What are we doing with the information you're giving us to know, hey, not only are you a good not-for-profit organization, but there's a lot out there, and here's a resource where you can go to find out to make sure you're given to the right places that you, and knowing where your money's going. Yeah, I think it's huge.
So as we step through how you can give, one of the things you mentioned is that we do work, and a lot of people work more than 8 hours a day. But at the end of the day, it's said that you can tell where a person is going by what they do between the hours of 6 p.m. and 12 midnight, I guess. So it's the time outside of work.
Right.
We give it to our family. We give it to our church. We give it to the things that are important to us. We give it to our education. We're growing. We're doing something, right? And those are the things that really makes a person interesting,
right?
Because you're more than just your job. Right. You're more than just a financial advisor, right? You're more than just a doctor. You're more than just whatever it is you do for a living. We do a lot of things so that we can live a fuller life, and that tells us really who we are. So the Empower series has always been something that I've done. I started as a financial advisor, but it wasn't part of my practice. It's my community give, right? And so I want to start by talking about how people can give and what you advise people, because the easiest way is to donate cash.
Right.
So I definitely want to make sure that in our conversation that people open up their awareness of other smaller nonprofit organizations that may not be the major multi-million ones that have a good marketing campaign and increase awareness, but see what's happening in your local communities and allocate at least $5 or $10 a month, if you can, to those organizations, Empower Series being one of them. And that's the easiest way. Right. The next way would be your time. Right. You can volunteer your time in any capacity. The other way could be just in-kind donations, though. Right? Because every organization is a company. We need computers. We need all types of things that you may have the expertise in. We were talking the other day about, or just recently before we started, about donating your car. Right? There are nonprofit organizations that takes car donations. Or in your situation as a financial advisor, people can donate some of their assets. Right? Their investments as well. But as we go through this and we kind of hit on every common person, the most valuable resource is time. Another most valuable resource is our expertise, right? Or any amount of cash. Once we get past that, how do you enter a conversation about maybe if they have some additional assets that they want to allocate and get the benefit of a tax deduction or whatever benefit they're looking for? How do you engage in those kind of conversations with your clients?
Quickly before we go that deep, I wanted to talk about, as you even mentioned my career path, I've worked with people on every single spectrum of wealth life. I mean, the person that's starting out and got $1 to their name and want to know, how do I invest? How do I start putting money away? To very ultra high net worth individuals. And I've worked with everyone in between and still continue to. As you just mentioned, everybody can do something. And even I'm thinking of, grandma sitting in the small house and doesn't have a ton to her name, but she loves what Clifton's doing with his not-for-profit. She can give $5, $10, $15, $20, $100 a month, right? But I think the how is what we talked about before. I think that helps.
Making it easy, right?
Making it a little bit easier than grandma trying to write a check and put it in the mail. We've got technology now that helps with some of that. So we've already talked about that, but I wanted to stop there and make sure that people know this isn't a conversation that's just about people that have hundreds of millions of dollars and we're looking for them to give to non-for-profits. However,
I want to say something too. So I have some aunts and some cousins that watch the Empower series. So I love you. And one of my aunts actually wanted to make a donation. You talking about making it easy. She was like, well, Clifton, I want to write this check. Where do I mail it to?
Yeah.
So we got to think it's more than just technology, right? Because there's some people that writing a check is easy.
My mom still writes a check. She still got it. I don't even have a checkbook. So I don't even know how that works. But
yes, I want to give my blessings and respect, rest in peace to my Aunt May, who like she was my first aunt that actually wrote a check to the Empower series. And like, where do I mail this check?
Yeah. Oh, that's sweet. So that can still be done. Clifton will gladly accept your check.
Checks,
He
right?
would gladly accept that. But I don't want to beat that up too much. But my point is just the ease of it. Yeah. And I think that people get away from the ease. They go to a building and I keep going back to church because I think that's where people's mind go. They go to a building, they go to a service, they understand, and they can give there. And they stop there, and they don't have to. Is my point. We all go to Starbucks or McDonald's or wherever we're getting our cup of coffee from. Not to promote any specific companies. There's a million of them.
Make a big donation to that.
You make a donation to that. Gosh, you tip them. You do all this stuff, and all we're saying is those resources can be reallocated. Not taking money out of anyone's pocket, but we all have allocations within our budgets that can be changed based off of good needs. That's my only point there. But to answer your specific question about what I talk to my clients about is everyone's already allocating money going somewhere, especially by the time I've talked to them.
Either intentionally or by default.
Intentionally or by default.
Oh, and before we even go there, one of the things that I think I'm a big advocate of, if I was going to inject everybody with some basic practice that can help them no matter where they are on the economic spectrum, know where your money is going.
For sure.
There's so many, like as a financial advisor, you can't really help anybody if they can't tell you where their money's going, exactly. Right? Yep. Like that's the basis for every decision that's being made. Yep. So right now I find that companies are meticulous about their accounting software packages, their detail of your budget. If you're responsible for a budget for a company, you know where your money's going. Mm-hmm. But as individuals, we relax. Yeah. We're like, kind of like like my bank tells me where my money's going. Like your bank is not.
I got 5 Netflix accounts.
Oh my gosh.
I got 100 subscriptions.
So
all that
please,
stuff, yeah.
There's going to be a podcast on how do you make it easy to know where your money's going? Because if you don't know where your money's going, then you really can't be helped, right? Yeah. So know where your money's going and continue. You just pressed on the nerve.
No, yeah. And in those conversations, I mean, we talk about it, especially as people, you think about it, the main goal for most people, there's a ton of goals, right? Saving for a child, saving for marriage, saving for a house, saving for college expenses, saving to buy a boat. I mean, people have all different goals, right? And I help people within those goals or help them create goals or help them think about what their goals are without them even knowing what their goals were just based off a conversation. Right. You just told me 5 goals and you didn't even know it, right? So that's my job. But the main goal for almost everybody is saving for retirement, right? Because while you're working, you're accumulating income to be able to go spend.
Right.
When you stop and you have no
income coming in,
that faucet is off. Now we're dependent on whatever you put away to basically pay you while you're not doing work or can't do work, don't want to do work anymore, whatever that reason is, right? So most people are in that boat. So let's talk to those people really quick. I don't care where you're at on that spectrum, how much money you made, how much money you put away. Most people that had a job, most of them had a 401k, some type of retirement account. You got an advisor like myself. We started to move some of those assets or majority of those assets over into some type of traditional IRA or whatever that may be, some type of investment account. Mm-hmm. The point of the conversation of this specific part of it is those specific people, no matter how much is in there, still had a budget, still had money flowing out somewhere.
And some of that money was going to.
And some of that money was going to their church, a non-for-profit, a charity of some sort. And within that, where we start to have conversations with our client, especially that get to that specific point in their life where they're retired or even just have the assets, especially in IRAs, we start talking about, everyone knows if I give money to a charity or give money to my church, I get a format, tax form in a year, and I can write that off on my taxes if I'm itemizing.
And to be clear, before we get into the details of this, that you are a financial advisor, right?
Correct.
But you're not giving financial advice.
I'm not giving financial advice in this.
Very clear. This is for general and informational purposes only.
Yes.
You're not giving financial advice. You're not giving legal advice. You're not giving tax advice.
And medical advice. I'm not giving any medical advice either. I'm none of those professionals.
Or mental advice. So what we are doing, though, is we are going to encourage you to talk to a professional, whether it's a financial, legal, or tax professional, and get advice for your specific situation. So we're going to talk about some strategies, but it's just informational stuff. There's going to be links underneath the video for you to look at, but you should always seek out professional advice and not rely on a podcast or any other general information on making your personal financial decisions. So I want to make sure we get that out before you dive deep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, just to that point, I think podcasts are a great thing that we have in 2025 of just, there's so much information out there. And how do you know what's real? You know what's real by taking information you got, researching it for yourself with any professional you may be working with, or just for your own knowledge of researching outside of what I'm expressing today, what Cliff is expressing. Go do some more research for yourself, and you can reach out to myself or Cliff or whoever at any point if you need some help, specifically what I'm talking about. But specifically back to my point of my demographic that I'm speaking on right now, because we kind of talked about that. If you've done what I just laid out, you worked at a job, you had a retirement account, you got with an advisor, or you did it on your own and moved it over to an IRA, at that point, and you're giving to a church, you're giving to a non-for-profit, you're giving to a charity, you have the ability to start to use your retirement assets as a charitable donation. So I'm going to pause there again. You can use money out of a traditional IRA, not your 401k, not a simple, not a SEP. Again, go do your research, but I'm just giving you some gems. Yeah. You can take some funds out of that IRA and donate that to a church, a charity, or a non-for-profit, and it be potentially be a non-taxable event, because normally we take funds out of those accounts. You're being taxed on all of those funds right away. It could be a non-taxable event that's considered a gift.
Let's talk about why a person would do that, because when I'm listening to that, my first thought was, man, I need this money to live, right? So if you don't need that money to really live on, it's money that you're going to be giving to a charitable organization, number one. And then one of the biggest problems is that people have put a lot of money into accounts that are pre-taxed, right? And what that creates for people later on when they're retiring and pulling it out is a taxable event.
Correct.
So if they want to minimize that taxable event, they don't really need that money right now to live off of, then doing a strategy like this will help them be philanthropic, and it will also minimize or eliminate the taxable event.
It's both. Because I'm careful just putting people in that box that say, hey, I make so much money. I've got clients there. I make so much money or I have so much money. I got a huge amount of money that because of how an IRA works, whether you know or not, as you get to a certain age, it's usually 74 now. They keep changing. They keep changing the tax codes. It's 74 now. Once you reach that age, you have to start taking money out of these accounts, right?
They're called required minimum distribution.
So you have to take it out, pay taxes on it. So there's a lot of people in that boat there. Man, taking this out raises my tax bracket too much. What else can I do? Yeah. How much do you normally give to your church or your local charities? Do you need another chair? I can get you this website. I can help you. That's where we have those conversations. So that's one box of people. But majority of people say, Aaron, I still need this money to live off of.
Right.
My point to them is, you're already giving. So why not use some of this money that you're already giving out of your other Social Security money you got coming in? You're not working anymore, right? You have no faucet of income. You have Social Security, you have a pension, you have maybe any other type of income. You have a quadro from a divorce. You may have alimony from a divorce. It could be all kind of different things, right? You've got money coming in from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And that money's coming in and you're giving it somewhere. The only thing at my point to them is with this is you can use this as a resource of that giving as well, because you're not used to working and having that income come in. So I don't like putting people in a box of just the people that don't need the money. Right. It's just, how do we reallocate that money to be a more efficient way of what you're doing? And that can work for individuals that don't even make too much or have too much, or in that box of, I do have, to your point, I have a lot of clients that say, hey, the IRS is making me take this money out because of the age I'm at.
Yeah, I have more money I can ever spend.
And it's going to, it's raising my tax bracket. Aaron, I have a lot of clients that say, take this money and reinvest it somewhere else in a different account. I pay the tax and reinvest it.
Because I don't need it right now.
I don't need it right now. And I want to continue to invest and have it grow for when I do need it. Mm-hmm. That's a group of people, right? There's a lot of people, and even them, I have that conversation. Hey, I get what you're saying, but you're taking that money out, you're going to pay taxes. So how do we avoid this? Who are you giving to? There's a conversation. Yeah. Who else can you give to? There's a conversation.
So I want to make a point too that, when you're working with a financial advisor, there's so many different valuable things that you get from them. But it's really important to have money in multiple buckets, right? You have multiple sources of income, multiple places to pull money from.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is that a lot of times pulling money from an IRA account to make a charitable contribution is not really thought of, but it is an option. Right.
Correct. Now you got to be 59 and a half or older, so you don't have tax penalties. So I want to make my disclaimers there so people know I'm just not saying, hey, you're 45, start pulling money out of your IRA, give it to you, giving the cliff, give all your money. Like, I'm not saying that. No. You got to be over 59 and a half for it to make any type of sense first. And then you kind of start, once you start to get older, I'm just thinking of those people. Whenever I bring this up to my clients, every single time they go, I didn't know I could do that.
Exactly. And that's the value of meeting with a financial advisor.
That's my whole point of just giving some information about what people can do in that specific time frame. We talked about what other people can do. You're younger and you can volunteer your time. You can volunteer your Starbucks. You can volunteer a lot of different things that we talked about. This is for that demographic of people that are getting close to retirement, in retirement, have been in retirement, that did not know they could take money from their retirement account and give to not any. I mean, you have to have some red tape, and we can talk about that, and you can post all those links. Has to be a good charity that's on certain websites and has gone through their approval to be on the codes of the IRS. So you have to dictate that. It has to come out of that account properly. So it has to be forwarded directly to that non-for-profit charity or church. So there's some things that your financial advisor or institution would have to do to make that happen. My point is giving you the information that you can do it, and that is an option for you. So I think a lot of people do not know about this. Just another disclaimer, just because you're wealthy, just because you're ultra high wealthy, doesn't mean you know everything. That's the point of why they hire me. They don't want to have to know everything. They're like, I know what I know of how I got wealthy and what I do for a living. And I'm hiring you as a professional. They believe in professionals. It's sometimes the people that are not wealthy don't believe in professionals, but the wealthy believe in professionals 100%.
So let me tell you this. So financial literacy, right? People think financial literacy is all about, I need to know about the stock market. I need to know about these investments. I need to know about cryptocurrency. I need to know about, all these different, these elaborate alternative investment schemes, right? And they're not really schemes, but they're opportunities. Mm-hmm. Most wealthy people don't know that much about those things. Mm-hmm. They work with a financial advisor to get that information. However, they are very competent in how they make money.
Yep.
Right. So whether it's a business, whatever the core competency is. So I would always advise my clients, like, you are your biggest asset.
Yep.
Whatever you're doing for the past 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, that's a skill set. That's your core competency. Yeah. If you like stock, if you like these other investments, take time and research that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you perfecting your skill set and your core competency and figure out how you can make more money with the knowledge that you already have is the best asset that you have to invest in. Yeah. Right? That's where I'm at. Yeah. And so I want to bring that up too. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is it's just very interesting because now I just had a train like I'm in my 60s now, and I just forgot what I was going to say. But it'll come back to me, man. But yeah, you just hit on
quickly on that point
that wealthy people are not always the most financial literate. Oh, financial literacy is really not knowing the information about these investments, but it's making sound financial decisions. Yeah. And I would say it's knowing where your money's going, being intentional about where it goes, whether it goes to savings or an investment vehicle, and getting advice around that. Yeah. Not being mired down in debt. Yeah. Right. And just having some basic financial some basic knowledge on investments, risk and return, so that when we're sitting down with a financial advisor, we can really understand and learn more if we have that foundation of knowledge. So I think financial literacy are those 4 cornerstones.
You hit a gem I need to punch on real quick. I was chatting with my mom last night, shout out to Cheryl, and I was explaining to her, she was talking about stock market stuff she's heard online and heard, I should be buying this stock, I should be doing this Bitcoin, I should be doing this, what should I do? And I was explaining to her, I said, Mom, I've been doing this for over 20 years now. The biggest investment, the best investment that you could ever do is you. You are the best investment, right? Anything you do, there is no quick get. It just doesn't exist. Can you get lucky? I can get lucky in a slot machine, right? I can hit a jackpot. I can get lucky and win the lotto. Yeah, I can get lucky and having to invest. I was like, everyone with Bitcoin, everyone with Amazon, everyone with these stocks that they just claim they made all this money on, you didn't hear their bad stories.
Yeah.
If you gamble, I just came back from Vegas, gambled a little bit. You're only going to hear when I tell you I did well. When I did bad, I don't want to talk about it at all, right? So you don't hear that. So my point to that is you are the best investment. The icing on the cake is the actual investment, right? So if I'm investing in the stock market or Bitcoin or savings account or CD, any of the stuff that you invest in, that's the icing on the cake. But you putting money away is the biggest investment. That's the only. That's the
your
only
return is really what you're earning.
Correct.
To a certain extent, what you're earning, what you're making.
Correct.
For your expertise and value.
Compounding starts to make it grow even substantially. But if you don't have the discipline to put the money away, you'll never get there. So that's also to shout out to my younger people. There is no, one day I'm going to end up a billionaire because I invested a little bit in Bitcoin one day. It's just not going to happen. I don't see it. This is not a bash on Bitcoin or the stock. I love all this stuff, right? Any way to get money growing is a good thing, but I'm trying to get people to understand the best investment is you. The best investment is your time. The best investment is you're investing into a non-for-profit. You're giving them your resources, and that can be beneficial to you in a different way than just the growth of a Bitcoin, a stock market, or mutual funds, all the other stuff that I do for a living, right? And I do this stuff. So I'm not bashing it. I'm just telling you, people always think, what can you do for my money? And it's like, well, how much? You used to be an advisor. My first question to people when I started to invest, it's great. You got 20 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, $1 million. How much are we contributing to this? Because you're still the best investment.
Right.
You putting money away is still the best investment. You can't beat it.
Too, man. But here, before we go deep, and we're going to go deep into some sophisticated strategies for people who have arrived, financially. But I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to share some of my goals. I found 16 goals that I had in 1989, and I was reading them. And they were in 4 groups. They had 4 goals were my immediate goals, I would say longer short-term goals, and then I had like midterm goals, and then my final goals when I arrived. And I accomplished some of them, didn't accomplish all. But at the end of the day, what I accomplished, I gave attention to. What I didn't accomplish, I wasn't really focused on. But I'm going to talk about the last 4 because the last 4 was like, okay, now I've arrived, right? I've done my work. And so the first thing is I wanted to have a loft in every downtown city that I wanted to live in, right? And so that was like Dallas, Los Angeles, Seattle. Now, I haven't accomplished all of that because there's some cities I would like to live in, a loft in. But I do have a loft downtown Dallas, right? So I accomplished, some of that. Yeah. Then the second one was to have a jet, right? So jet lifestyle. Don't have a jet. Now, I know people who have jets. Jets are very expensive. Yeah. And so
if you want to donate one, you can.
Talk about that. And the maintenance costs too, right? Yeah. And so I don't have a jet. I'm still working on that possibly. Then the third goal was to have so many assets that was generating a return that I really did not have to work. Right? Now, I'm still accumulating that. So I'm not there yet. Right. But, it was like, my goal when I've arrived, I didn't have to work. I wake up every day just managing my assets. The last one is what I wanted to bring up to you, and that's going to transition to our conversation here. And I remember thinking about this when I was writing it down. I was like, how many should I say? Should I just say 1, or should I say 10 or whatever? So I said 1, but I said I want to help at least one family every year get established on the right track and what that meant, right? And when I look at those 4 goals, it's amazing that I had goals that were more material based, But that one goal was my contribution and giving base.
Yeah.
And that was the last goal that I had. And I look at the Empower series and what I'm doing. And the Empower series is a representation of my most important goal that I had, which was giving to other people and giving them what I felt was needed. The four cornerstones is hope that they can envision, whatever they envision they can achieve. I want them to be inspired to consistently take action no matter what the results are, be disciplined around that, continually educate themselves, and be connected to resources to help them achieve their goal. Those and so when I wrote that down in 1989, I had no concept about the Empower series, but my life evolved in that area. And so what we're talking about now, in my opinion, is one of the biggest things that we can do, because all of the money that we're going to make, we cannot take with us. And so giving to other people, giving to our communities, and making a lasting impact is what I feel like we're all designed to do.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to share that with you, since we're talking about money and everything. But most importantly, you can always give no matter what it is. You can always be of service no matter what it is, no matter how much money you have. The more money you have, the better you can do it. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that people are empowered to give.
And you wrote down one, and you didn't realize you'd be helping 20,000 or more.
That's something, right? So yeah, so I'm wealthy, bro.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the thing. I want to put some structure to this. And so there's some specific tax advantage vehicles that I wanted to bring up and talk about. One of them is something that's called a donor advisor or donor advice fund. You've heard of those, right?
Yeah.
So how would you explain that to people? Not everybody will probably qualify for that, but there's some people who have a lot of money. They want to get a tax advantage now for making a donation or an investment into a fund. And that purpose of that fund is really to give grants to other charitable organizations. But do you have clients that you've had conversations with about investing in a donor advice fund?
Rarely, but I'm familiar with them. We've used that more with some high net worth individuals that are looking to really put quite a bit of funds away. Not really for the everyday person, but it's something that can be used. You can even go as far as charitable trust that you can do as well.
That's on my list.
Yeah, you can do charitable trust that we talk about quite a bit. More on the aspect of what a lot of people can do is even as we talked about before in a podcast with life insurance. So we were talking about before of people, this older generation, not to be morbid, but we all have our day, and it's coming for this baby boomer generation where they're dying off quite a bit. It's just as they're getting older, and with them, charitable contributions and donations are going right with them because the younger generation just does not give as much as them. So really been talking to my elderly clients, or getting there, even if they're not, old, just middle age and retired. Hey, who do you give to as we're talking about all this other stuff? And who do you want to continue to give to in case something happens to you? So you can name Empower Series as a beneficiary on any investment you have. You can, and that would transfer tax-free to them, not even depending on what account it's in. Talk to your professionals about how that works. Or even on a life insurance policy. A lot of people do that too, where they include their church or non-for-profit or charity. God forbid something happens to them, they're able to be taken care of just because those donations that you're making every paycheck or every month or every week you go to church, those stop. And along with those, everything that those resources that church, that non-for-profit, that charity was doing with those donations, that could stop just because of something happened to you. So we're a big advocate of talking about those, talking about charitable trusts, talking about possibly listing. I've even had clients where we've done another life insurance policy that was specific for their charitable giving.
Yeah, so I think that's a great point. So number one, we should all, at some point, we're all going to pass away. And when we pass away, people are going to be missing us. They're going to be missing our presence, our energy, our spirit. A lot of our presence is going to be missed, and people are going to be grieving. We have some people who are dependent upon us financially. Mm-hmm. So family, that's a big part of that, and we are underinsured as Americans.
Yep.
But we also have some people who don't have life insurance and they don't have a family, but they are making a contribution, be it their time, they're donating time or whatever, to a nonprofit organization. they do not want to overlook that a life insurance policy benefit can significantly help a community organization that they've been giving all of their time to. Even if it's not all of it, it's a percentage. They give some to their family, then some to an organization or entity. Some people give it to their schools, institution of education. But I like what you're bringing up. It's like, let's not overlook that life insurance can be used to provide a legacy by giving to an organization that is in need of funding. And most small organizations, their biggest challenge is getting the funding to run their organization and be sustainable.
And I think people just think, I'll give to a charity, whatever. Because, I get that, whatever from my clients. Nothing against them, but they're not thinking about, hey, you've been giving to them now.
Yeah.
And if you're not here, that giving stops.
Exactly.
So when you're not thinking about that next step of just giving to a charity, because people think like, I rather give to my family. I rather give it all to my family than giving anything to a charity. But it's like, it's not just about giving to a charity or a not-for-profit or your church. It's that you've been giving all this time and they've been dependent on that giving. And now, God forbid, something happened to you. You're not here.
Yeah.
That giving has stopped.
That's a good point.
Or has been cut in half because the kids don't give as much, or, most of the kids aren't going to give. We just know what it is. So to list them as a beneficiary on things, I think is the next step that where we start to talk to clients about. And as my point, as I've talked about this, I've had clients that literally will say, I'd rather open a whole nother life insurance policy and just have that be for that. And you can do that as well. And it could be listed of any non-for-profit, any church, any charity, kind of putting them all in the same boat, because that's how people think as well. So, but no, like it's the same mindset as Empower Series, right? They're doing something good in the community and trying to give back. They need the resources just like every other non-for-profit out there that's trying to do good things. And you can use the resources you have. You say, hey, I may not be able to give that much now. I'm only giving you $100 a month, let's say, but I pass and I can leave you $100,000 for my life insurance policy. That goes a long way, right?
Yeah. And look, it's a lot more though, because you look at, if you're giving $100 a month or even $50 a month, if you put that into a life insurance policy, chances are the benefit of that is going to be much greater than your $50 a month for your lifetime.
Correct.
And so definitely we want to look at life insurance as one of the vehicles that you can leave a legacy with the organization as well as your family. Yeah. Right. But going back to, before going to charitable remainder trust, the donor advisor fund, from my understanding of it, it allows people to make a contribution. Let's say they're making a contribution of $20,000 into this fund. They get that $20,000 right off today.
Correct.
But then that fund can actually be used over a longer period of time in allocating to other nonprofit organizations.
Correct.
So the real benefit is that a person has money that they want to give, but they don't know who they're going to give to yet.
Yep.
And they want to get the benefit of giving this year.
Correct.
They can use that fund for that.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, that's one thing. But then you mentioned the charitable remainder trust. How would you explain that to someone? I have an understanding of it, but I haven't been, how would you explain that to somebody? Because really it's an ability to create a trust, an irrevocable trust that currently can be used for your living expenses or your beneficiary's living expenses. But then at some point when you pass away, the remainder of that trust can go to a nonprofit organization. Is that the best way of explaining that?
Yeah, basically. I mean, some people go that far where they want the trust to basically handle their life, right? Mm-hmm. And handle their wishes. So you can basically create a trust that's a charitable trust that basically handles those wishes. So you don't have to worry about, at that point, you're not even naming just specific beneficiaries. You can have a trust that allocates specific things to be done for you. Mm-hmm. So some people go that far. We talk about that with clients of trust, period. So if I'm already talking to you about trust with their normal assets and normal lifestyle and normal life, that manages things as they are no longer here or even while they're here. I mean, sometimes trusts take over as you're alive and you just don't want to handle it yourself anymore, or you're incapable of handling it. A charitable trust just basically is that next step if we're talking about in that aspect. So just protects you a little bit more as well.
Okay. And then, there's two types of charitable trust. There's a remainder trust and a lead trust. The remainder trust is what it says, is remainder. So you're using the assets for your living expenses, but then when you're done, then the remainder of that trust goes to a charity.
Correct.
But a charitable lead trust is like the opposite of that. It's a trust that's created to give to a charitable organization for a specific period of time, let's say 10, 20 years or whatever, and then after that period of time has been met, then the remainder of that trust goes to the actual beneficiary, which is the individual.
Correct.
But they're both charitable trusts. Correct. Right.
So both within that, a trust is basically just dictating what your wishes are and what kind of trust and how you set that up, whether that's, we're talking about charities or just trust in general. That's basically what they're trying to do. It's basically handling what you're trying to accomplish. So even outside of charitable trust, you're just saying, hey, I want a trust set up because my daughter's going to be 21 and I've got this assets set aside for her, but I want her to have, a certain percentage every single year for the next 10 years until she buys a house. You can get that specific in a trust. You can't get that specific in anywhere else to do those wishes for you if you're here or not here. So same thing with charitable trust. It depends on what you're looking at doing. It's just the same concept of how you want to allocate it, where you want to allocate it out, all that. You can basically lay all that out if you want to get that specific.
So let's talk about a trust in general, though, because whether it's a charitable trust or a living trust or irrevocable trust, whatever a trust is, some people are thinking, oh, wow, like I need to get a trust. But if you don't have a certain amount of money, it doesn't make enough. It's not economical for you to have a trust, right? You like the power and the control of a trust, but you got to look at the fact of, are you able to fund that trust, and where that trust have enough liquidity to pay for itself?
I would say money and specific needs.
Okay, talk to me more.
Because I used to be just, if you don't have $1 million, you don't need a trust. Gotcha. Don't talk to me about trust unless you have $1 million, because it's a cost to setting up a trust. I mean, you're looking at anywhere from, don't quote me, you can talk to your trust attorneys, but anywhere from $500 to $10,000 or more, depending on what's in that trust and how complicated trust is. And then you start adding charitable trust and all this stuff. It can be expensive. And I'm not trying to scare people, because you can get them fairly cheap too, or you can write your own trust. There's a lot of websites out there you can do it very cheap. So, but again, you're not getting professional advice of how to do it. So, and you want to be very careful with them. My point to that though is, I used to be there, and as I've grown as an advisor and grown of giving advice, I've learned that I have to be careful with that advice, because let's say I'm married, I got divorced, or I'm a widow, and I marry someone else, and I had kids with that first wife, and I want to take care of those kids. Now I remarry, and she has 3, 4, 5 kids. Right. And technically, if I pass away and all my money goes to my wife, my kids could be X'd out and everything just passes along to her kids without anyone doing any ill will or trying to be deceitful. It just naturally would flow that way unless I have a trust.
Or giving your point, in some cases, if you have kids and you're married and you don't have a will, then you might find that like your house might go 50% to your wife and 50% to your kids, and they don't get along. So a lot of mess could happen if you don't create a trust. Right?
Correct. And be careful with wills. Wills only handle tangible assets. They do not handle any money. Not a bank account, not an investment account.
Unless you don't have a beneficiary and then it goes to your estate.
Your will would, I mean,
or unless you put it
in your will would list you as the executive of the state, and you could get access to it.
It's complicated.
It's going to get complicated. So I just want people. I always try to make that disclaimer. A will does not cover your money. It covers your assets, like your tangible assets, your cars, your houses,
anything that has
your watches, all that stuff at home. You want to put in a will, you're covered. Yeah. It does not cover any dollars, money, numbers on a screen that you have anywhere. It does not cover it at all. So be careful with that. But I'm cautious about saying you got to have $1 million, you got to have $100,000 to have a trust, because there are, life can get very complicated with just who you are and what happened in your life, right? Mm-hmm. Life is complicated. With those complications, trust can help those complications while you're alive and after you're gone. So I'm an advocate of trust. I don't think everyone needs a trust. If you got one beneficiary as your husband and then it was going to pass to your kids after that, you don't necessarily need a trust.
Let's talk.
If you want to get specific about it, though, if you say, hey, I want to make sure this passes to my husband, and if my husband passes too, I want to make sure that the kids get this, but they only get $5,000 a year for the next 10 years. You can't do that just by listing beneficiaries.
Okay,
it has to be a trust.
Pause. What's a trust, man? You got to break it down, because there's some people that are like, man, you guys talking about trust. What's a trust? How would you explain what a trust is?
A trust is basically your brain on paper. Is the simplest way I can put it.
Not your brain in a frying pan.
It's your brain saying, this is what my wishes are if I'm not here to lay out my wishes.
Okay.
Or if I'm not in the capacity to lay out my wishes. Some people get ill and their trust takes over their financial life. They're still alive. Mm-hmm. They can't handle financial decisions. Trust takes over. There's trustees that are listed on there. That could be a bank, an institution, or a person. It does not have to be your spouse, does not have to be your kids. It could be a neighbor. It could be someone. And that does not mean they get the money. That means they're responsible for laying out what the trust wishes are. So trust can be very beneficial to people. I'm very careful when I recommend people go get a trust, but I'm very careful of not just saying it's just about how much money you have.
Okay, so let's break it down. Let's break it down. So first off, a trust is a legal entity. So let's define what a legal entity is, because you have human beings.
Yep.
You have me, you as individuals. We have joint ownership and stuff like that. So we have living people as owners of property and title, and then you have legal entities created, which could be an LLC, it could be a C Corp, S Corp, or it could be a trust, right? And so all of those fall under the category of a legal entity that's created legally. So a trust is a legal entity that is created through attorneys, not through a financial advisor.
Correct.
Right. And so when you look at players of a trust, the way I define the players, and then you kind of add to that, is you have the person who creates the trust, the grantor.
Yep.
Right. So I'm the one creating the trust. And let's say I'm doing that I have 2 kids, right? And then I have the beneficiary. So who's the beneficiary of this trust that I'm creating? It could be me, right? Or it could be other people, or it could be another institution, a charity, right? And so you have what's called beneficiaries. And now a trust is, like you said, your brain on paper. So what's your brain? Like it's not going to be, it could be you. So the brain is the person responsible for making the decisions of this trust, which is the trustee.
Right.
So you've got the grantor, you've got the trustee, which is the person that's responsible for making the decisions in the trust. And then you have the beneficiaries. Are there any other players really? Got the grantor, the trustee, the beneficiaries.
It's pretty much that simple. But
it's putting your brain on paper.
Where I say brain on paper, because I have clients that I've had a 20-year relationship with. I know what their brain is saying, what their desires are.
Right.
However, if they leave,
it's not.
I don't have their brain anymore to know what their desires are.
It's not on paper.
Right? It's not on paper.
Yeah.
So that's where that was my point too. I used to put a dollar amount. You don't have $1 million. You don't need to trust. And then I start running into complicated situations. I was like,
but let's talk about it.
You've got $100,000.
But let's talk about it.
You need to trust.
We got family, right? We got family. I have family who have we have land in Louisiana, right? It's not in a trust, and it's some crazy stuff. Like the ownership is being split between brothers and cousins, and when they die, they got their kids. It's just a big mess. We might be talking to somebody who has some stuff like that.
Right.
So a trust is now. Let's say if the ancestor who actually had that property put that property in a trust, then that property would have been owned by that trust. Their brain identifies, okay, who's the trustee? Who's going to be the responsible person making the decisions about what happens to the revenue that this property is getting when it's leased out? Who are the beneficiaries? Identifying the specific beneficiaries. And then when they pass away, who are the beneficiaries after that? Because a trust does not have an end date. A trust is in perpetuity because it's a non-living entity, right? But then here's the question. Within that trust, a lot of people may have a complicated situation, but if there's not enough money to either maintain that trust, or if let's say you put property in a trust, but that property is not a revenue producing property, you got individuals who can't keep up with the property taxes, then you just got a mess. So I agree with you to where you just can't say you need $1 million, but you need to know enough about the complexity of their situation to determine how liquid is that trust going to be? Because that trust has to have some liquidity. It may, depending on the type of trust, it may have taxes that's due.
Yep.
And cousins and,
this goes back to Cheryl. Shout out to Cheryl from last night as well. Long conversation about all this stuff. I just didn't want to be on a stage and saying everyone needs a trust, or everyone does not need a trust unless you have this amount of assets.
Right.
You need a trust depending on you.
And
it's always on you.
And you need to talk to, in my opinion, a financial advisor and an attorney.
Correct.
Because not just an attorney. An attorney can definitely draw the papers.
Correct.
But a financial advisor, in my opinion, knows more about that person, what their wishes are, and can make sure that the articulation of that desire has been communicated effectively to an attorney.
Correct.
So that all players can get what they're looking for. So again, it goes back to where
you start to get businesses involved. You own a business, you got partners. Sometimes the trust needs to make sure that your family's taken care of and not all the funds go to that business partner. So you have a trust set up. There's all kind of different situations where a trust starts to make sense. Not your point of the assets, you do need to have some assets to start looking at. If you don't got any assets, how you gonna go pay for the trust in the first place? Like, so you do need to have some assets, but it's not just for the ultra wealthy that may need a trust. And it's also, it's not for everybody, but I definitely think that I don't put that parameter of just money on it, because I've had situations where I'm like, you need a trust. So here's a good trust attorney that can help you. I know them really well, and I get those referrals out, and then we look at it together and kind of try to help them build it and stuff like that. But it's not just based off of that. Is my whole point. Is I want people to hear that as well.
Okay, well, again, I want to make sure that we're covering this. We've talked about everybody can give. Everybody can serve. It doesn't matter how much money you got. So whether it's your $5 or $10, whether it's your time, whether it's your expertise, if you have some money that's in some retirement accounts or in any accounts, sitting down with a financial advisor to determine if I want to give, how should I give out of my earnings or out of some investment I have. Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about the fact that you can also give highly appreciated stocks or investments,
yep.
right?
Yep.
You can do that.
Yep.
And so but we spend a lot of time talking about trust. And at the end of the day, when we don't wake up, we have an estate that we can decide who to give it to our families, or we can give it to an entity or a school or a community nonprofit organization. I do want to talk about highly appreciated assets, because there's some people who, for one reason or another, they work for AT&T, they work for some company, they acquired stock at a very low price.
A lot of those,
and now it's appreciated very high.
Yep.
And if they try to sell that themselves, it's going to be a taxable event, and they're going to pay some taxes. But if they want to give that to a nonprofit organization, they can give at the elevated price, make a greater donation, and then it's not going to be a taxable event for that nonprofit organization, because they generally are federally tax exempt.
That's a good point, because I have a lot of clients that have that did just that, or were gifted it from their parents in the 40s, 50s, and it was on a I had one client, it was on a physical stock certificate.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even know what those are anymore.
Right.
Like there used to be physical stock certificates you had. It wasn't always in an account. And, in our, conversations and financial planning, I found out he had them. We got them in an account. I started to see what the cost basis was on them, which basically is telling you what you bought it for, what it grew to. And he basically can't touch them now. I mean, he can if he wants a big tax bill to do so. But to your point, hey, is there anyone you want to give to while you're alive? Like, some people want to give while they're alive, right? Asset wise, not just my donations at church or sending Cliff money for Empower series. I want to give a big donation while I'm alive, and I want to feel that I was a part of something, and have that feel good of being a part of something, giving and being a giving person. A lot of people want to be a giving person, right? This is one way people don't always think about, to your point. I've got this accumulation of stocks. I'm never going to touch this, really, unless I absolutely have to. I got clients say, I'm never going to touch a stock.
Right.
Because why? I'll pause there for a second, because if I touch it, I'm going to pay taxes. If I don't touch it and it passes to my wife or beneficiaries, they get a stepped up cost basis. If we're talking about non-retirement assets at this point, this is just like a stock I had. It's not a retirement asset. If I pass it over to anybody, it's going to get a stepped up cost basis, meaning I won't have to pay taxes, or they won't have to pay taxes if I died and pass it over to them. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are in that boat saying, I'm not going to ever touch this stock. I'm just going to ride out and let my kids or my wife get it, and they're going to have to pay taxes, and they got this great, they can then sell it if they want to, and they got a lot of money, right? Mm-hmm. But some people want to make an impact while they're alive, and that's one way they can, and still have that same, tax not be an issue for them, taxes, where they can gift stock, and then they're gifting it at the higher cost basis, and then the charity can do what they want with it at that point. Sell it, keep it, have it grow, whatever it may be. Not-for-profits can invest too. Like, they can have investments that grow and do different things with it as well. So that is a good point, because I do talk to a lot of clients that have that situation about what they can do with it and what their wishes are. At the end of the day, it's whatever their wishes are. I'm just here to help. I've told you before, I'm here to help. Everyone's got different goals, and some goals they don't know. Yeah. I didn't know I could do that. Yeah. So I'm a solution based.
Oh my gosh.
If I got a solution, if I have solutions. When I was at the bank, shout out to the bank from my early career. When I was in corporate America, I'll say, when I was in corporate America, I felt like, as an advisor, I felt like I had a tool chest of solutions that I can help people with.
Yeah.
And then I started my own practice, and I've been doing that now. I look down, I'm like, man, it's been 10 years. That's crazy. Over the last 10 years, I've built a garage of tools. So now I got solutions. So now when I'm sitting and just talking to someone with average conversation, Cliff and I were just talking the other day. This podcast came off of a conversation. I was like, Cliff, you know you could do this? He's, I know you could do that.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. So I love helping people. And I think the way I help people is I'm constantly trying to learn more about different solutions that I can have for people. And that's not always monetarily to me in my business, but it's just a value add to my clients and to my friends and peers of, hey, mom, or hey, or my brothers or my family members, you know, you could do this. I know I could do that.
Well, how many clients have you met with over the course of your career? How many have you met?
I haven't counted.
I know.
But it's definitely thousands for sure.
I know. Yeah, it's thousands of people, right?
When at corporate America, I had 2,500 clients alone.
Yeah.
So just that in and of itself, and then doing this and the other marketing stuff I do, I'm able to talk to bigger audiences. So it's definitely I would assume in the tens of thousands of people that have heard my voice about different strategies, different things they could do. And like I said, not of it's all monetary directly to me. It's like, hey, I didn't know I could do that. I need to talk to my advisor about it. I'm not here to just steal people's clients from advisors all day, every day. If I can help, you'll hear me say that in a meeting with clients. I say help probably 100 times because that's all I'm here to do.
Here's what I'm an advocate of. So the fact is, man, there's so many people who haven't met with a financial advisor for one reason or another, right? We go to the banks, we just get in, get out, or we go to work and we put money to a 401k, but we really don't know what we're doing. We talk to the custodian of the 401k, but we don't sit down with someone like you to say, okay, you know, have a structured conversation about our goals and what we're currently doing. Even people who are doing it themselves can value, in my opinion, from sitting down with somebody and just, you know, bouncing off some ideas.
Sure.
And to your point, sharing something that is unknown. And I think, so one of the takeaways from this is not only do I want people to feel like they can empower their communities and smaller nonprofit organizations with their time, their expertise, and their money. And so, you know, I talked to another friend and quote his words, you know, people are out there supporting stupid stuff. He didn't, well, I changed some of his words, right? He didn't just say stuff.
I know your friend.
People are supporting stupid stuff. Yeah. And it's like, when I look at the communities, the community organizations that are doing some great work, and then I look at some other stuff that is being supported with time and money, millions of dollars, I go, why can't there be both? If there's enough money to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for individuals or for things that are not that impactful to a wider community, why can't that money, some of that money, be allocated to the organizations that are really trying to impact the well-being and raise the quality of life for a whole community, where there's homelessness, where there's kids who are homeless, whether it's education, whether there's people who are just having some challenges, whether it's the Empower series, whatever the hell it is, right? So I'm very adamant about that. And I'm adamant about the first step as an individual is sitting down with a professional, going to your bank or contacting you. And I know that you work with a certain class of people, but you will help pretty much anyone, even with a conversation. 100%. So if someone wanted to contact you and just like go deeper on some of the things that you mentioned, how do people reach you?
Multiple ways. We've got, I know you got all the links for me. We were on social media. We've got our websites. We've got I have a contact me page that you can set an appointment directly with me. I don't even have to know you. Get right on my calendar. My calendar's pretty.
So what's your website?
Website is ECL, Edward Clark Larry, PWM.com.
Okay. And that's going to be a link underneath the video.
Yep.
Go ahead.
And then all my contact information. But just as you said, we're here to help anybody. I've never turned anybody away. Now, I may not be able to help you personally, right? But I just told a client of mine, said, hey, my daughter needs to talk to you, but I don't know if she has no money to talk to you. And I was like, doesn't matter how much money she has.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to help her no matter what. And that doesn't mean I'm going to open an investment account for her and start buying stocks and doing all that stuff. She will be, this is not me patting myself on the back, but I guarantee she will be empowered by talking to me. And so, and my client knew that. She's like, I've been working with you for a long time. I know you very well. And it comes to find out as I'm, doing our thing and uncovering goals and things that they have. Turns out the client has a lot of money that mom didn't even know about.
Right.
It's just all over the place. So it didn't seem like, I'm like, you realize you have this kind of money. It's a decent amount of money to invest. So, but I told her, and she came to that appointment. She was like, I don't know if I have enough money for an advisor. And I want to tell people, like, there may be certain institutions that you go to that say we can't help you at all, and we'll turn their nose up at you. I've been in the industry long enough. I know that happens. I'm telling you, I don't do that. I can help, and there's so many things in the financial industry that I know and understand and have the knowledge of that I don't do. We just talked about a bunch of them. I don't do trust.
Yeah.
I don't do accounting. I don't do taxes. I know a lot about all of them, and I can point you in the right direction. But that doesn't mean you're going to be my client, right? So I'm still helping you, though, and it's still a good conversation. Or I had a client that reached out to me, and it turned out the conversation leaded them to they needed to refinance their house and do stuff like that. I don't do mortgages.
We're not a mortgage broker.
I'm not a mortgage broker. So, but I know someone that can. So that's why I say I don't turn people away, because I don't know where the conversation will go. I don't know what you have going on. And all of these solutions that we talked about are tailored specifically to individuals. I think that everyone has specific things going on in their specific life, and these things can be a benefit to a lot of people, and some people they're good for, and some people are not. So, I want people to hear that. Like you definitely, have the capability to reach out to an advisor, reach out to myself. Cliff and I know a bunch of other advisors that do a really good job. So this isn't just a pat on my back, but we try to do a good job for our clients. We're here to help. I think that's how I sleep at night. I went to bed knowing I helped every single one of my clients to the best of my ability. It wasn't that I gave them the best stock tip and I gave them the best stock advice and they're making just so much money, which they do. Right. Shout out to me. We do a pretty good job. But it's not about that. It's like, was I able to really help them reach their financial goals? That's our ultimate goal. And that's same thing with these solutions. It's still your goal to give to, you want to be a giving person.
Yeah.
You told me that in our interview. I want to be a giving person. I've always been a giving person. I want to continue to give. I'm just giving you different solutions of how you can give. Mm-hmm. Right. And, to those big ones, we haven't really pitched there, and I know we got to close up soon, but I want them to hear as well. Like, a lot of very high net worth individuals do not know that they have these big IRA assets or big retirement assets. A lot of them get bonuses and they go straight to their retirement. They don't get the physical cash, and then they run into major tax issues down the road where they have to take out $50, $60, $100, $200,000 out of their retirement assets once they reach a certain age, and are just getting taxed on that withdrawal and putting it back into an investment. They don't realize sometimes that, hey, you can funnel that over to, you're already writing a check for $50,000. Right. Why don't we do that out of your retirement assets? And I don't think a lot of people know about that. So I think that's something that can definitely help you specifically, and a lot of non-for-profits on the bigger scale outside of just the everyday individual. So any of the non-for-profits out there, charities, and especially churches, I talk to churches a lot about, hey, you need to talk to your donors about their retirement assets. And as they retire, this could be another source for them to continue to give, because a lot of people retire and their giving goes down. Yeah. Why? Because now they're on a fixed income. Yeah. This got to last them the next 20, 30 years. Mm-hmm. I can't give you what I was giving you when I was making money. Right, I'm on fixed income now. Well, they can if they are realizing where they can give it from, and the different buckets.
And it's important to really work with a financial advisor, so that they know what they're doing. And so I want to reiterate that everybody, no matter where they are on their journey of accumulating wealth and achieving their goal, they can get value from sitting down and talking to somebody and developing the relationships now before they really need it. And I was like you too. I met with a lot of people that I couldn't necessarily work with. I couldn't, provide the services, but I knew somebody who could, whether it was an attorney, a CPA, a mortgage person, or whatever. And I was really the one person that was like the quarterback. I knew more about their goals than any one individual professional. So when they got information, they really came to me and so I can help them digest it and see how does that fit within their comprehensive goal. Yeah. And so I would encourage, if you're watching this and you got value, you're sticking with us right now, definitely do not leave this podcast without taking some kind of action of either reaching out to a financial professional within your circle, an attorney, or someone just to have a consultation. It's usually free. I am not aware, besides attorneys, there's no financial advisor that I'm aware of that's going to charge you for the initial consultation. They will tell you if there is a basis for you working with them, what the cost is. But in that initial consultation, I am not aware of anyone who has not gotten value from that. even if it's a confirmation.
And if you find one that is, go find a different one.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll be my gym there.
So,
go find a different one, because there are some bad ones out there. I'm not bashing my industry, but there are some that are not the greatest. So if you run into that situation, my point to that is don't get discouraged of, see, I went and tried and they just turned me down. That just means you caught a bad one. Go to someone, just like an attorney or any other profession. There are some good ones, there's some bad ones out there, and there's some that are in between. I think almost everyone, when you're talking about your money, no matter how much you have the right to talk to a professional about it. 100%.
And it's like dating. I say it's like dating. Like if you have who's not had a bad date, right? So don't give up on dating. Even though some people probably have given up on dating, I would say don't give up on dating. Keep looking. There's somebody out there somewhere who will take you.
That's a different podcast.
Who will take you with your raggedy self and all, right? So that's another joke for another day. Because my mom used to play this song called Skinny Legs.
Oh boy. Again, a different podcast.
Somebody out there somewhere who would take you. There's a top for every pot.
Different podcast.
So that being said, man, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for sticking in with us. So Aaron, I appreciate you taking your time, and we kind of jumped into this. Your time is precious. I'm glad you were able to make time for this. I believe that your investment in the Empower Series community is going to provide dividends for that's longer than we can more than we can imagine or even measure. Not only for individuals who are watching this, but also for nonprofit organizations. That's going to be the benefactor of people who are now giving their time, giving their talents, and giving their treasures. Are there any closing comments you want to make before I kind of sign us off here?
No, man, I really appreciate you having me. I love, just as we talked about, this is part of my contribution to Empower Series and everything that you're doing. I really appreciate what you're doing. And you guys don't know how hard Cliff works. You don't know how hard he takes this puts all this on his shoulders. I talk to him. We get together, every once in a while, and I hear, hey, Cliff, what's going on? And he's like, man, I got this, that going on. So it's not easy work, people. It's just not, especially when you're trying to do it by yourself. Same with church. I keep going back to churches because that's where people think again. Yeah. And you hear your church saying, hey, we need you, we need you, we need you, we need you. And Cliff's saying the same thing. So anything I could do to help, you always know I got your back. And I appreciate the invite to come out and just chat.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm not looking for easy, because easy is not going to come, right? And there are people out there who are struggling. Again, there's always someone doing something greater. There's always someone that's not as effective as you may be, right? So you can always be pulling somebody up and looking for someone that you can mentor or you can be mentored by. But we're not looking for easy. We're just looking for, how do we do hard better? Yeah. How do we do hard better? So thank you, man. Yeah. And I want to thank you for sticking in with us as well. Stay connected with us. If you have any questions, I want you to email thrive@empowerseries.com. thrive@empowerseries.com. Let us know what you liked about the program, what you want us to talk about, how we can be of more value and service to you. Whatever it is that you're looking for, we want to connect you to the resources that will help you take that next step to achieve your goal. You want to go to our website, go to www.empowerseries.com. There you can click on the top right-hand corner and do a survey and let us know how well we're doing. You can give us your feedback. You can find out what's coming up next on the third Saturday of every month. We're doing a workshop on some topic of empowerment and financial literacy. And if you want to give, we want to make it easy. So you can always click in the top left-hand corner. There's a donate button. Or like I said before, you can text give or donate to 214-225-6337. We want to make it easy for you to give of your time, your talent, and your resources. So stick with us. Thank you again. You are empowered. And until we meet again, I want you to be empowered and inspired to thrive.